G'day Jafffa Adventures, Terry King here. Welcome to the channel. Well, I'm just doing a little bit of servicing on the 200 series for our upcoming motorbike and four-wheel drive crossing of the Simpson Desert. Stay tuned for that one. Anyway, during that servicing, I have found that the KDSS bushes on the front of this cruiser are a little bit ordinary. They'll be okay for the trip, but there's a little bit of slop in them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap them out. If you want to see how to swap out KDSS bushes in your 200 series Landcruiser, stick around. Okay, what I've got on the bench here are the KDSS bushes for the front of the cruiser, and they're all genuine. I've replaced a lot of bushes in my time, and I've tried aftermarket and genuine. And for bushes, that's one thing that I will go genuine every single time. I don't know why, but they seem to be able to hold up a lot better than anything that I've seen in the aftermarket industry. These four bushes that you see sitting in front of you are $250. So that is one of the reasons I try to steer clear of genuine if I can, but not in the case of these bushes. So we got two half moon bushes here, and I've got an additional two bushes that are steel sleeved. Now these two bushes have different part numbers, but they are absolutely identical to one another. Now I'm not exactly sure why that is, but anyway, that just happens to be the case. These two bushes go on the left-hand side of the vehicle. I'll show you that now. This little arm right here is where those two bushes go. And you can see on mine how that bush is busted out. And it's actually off center a little bit on that small arm. And the underside one looks a little bit skew-if as well. Now I'm not replacing the driver's side this time around, and the reason for that is I replaced that not too long ago. It might not look like it because it's a little bit crusty, but I actually replaced that entire arm, not just the bush. You can buy those reasonably cheap from Toyota. Now, as far as that little front stabilizer bar goes, there's two part numbers. One relates to cars without a sub-tank and one with a sub-tank. So you just select whichever one you've got. And when you do that, you can see that there's a lot of options here, but the cheapest one for me is $84 and $22 shipping to Brisbane. Alternatively, you can jump into eBay, and Fred Auto Parts here has one of these stabilizer bars, $20 and $9 shipping. So you can choose where you'd want to go. My personal preference is genuine. And this is the half moon bush that I'm going to be replacing. There's one on the left and one on the right hand side. First things first, off come the bash plates. Okay, here's the sway bar that we're after. There's one of our half moon bushes. There's the other one. If you've got factory bash plates, normally you don't need to drop this center bash plate, but because I got to get to the sway bar, I will have to pull that one off. It's only got one 12mm headed bolt. Now I'm going to do all of this work when the car's on the ground, but the first thing I'll do before I drop it is I'll open up that KDSS shutter valve. Now that there is your KDSS shutter valve. You probably won't have that on your car. That's an air tank. But normally one of the mufflers runs right here, just so you got your bearings. Inside that shutter valve are two Allen head screws. Crack those two Allen head screws and back them off about 3 or 4 turns. Don't take them out all the way. That'll be all kinds of bad. Half, 1, half, 2, half, 3. All right, let's drop this car back on the ground. All right, now I'm going to rattle this little clamshell holder off. It's nice and clean on the inside. Now that little tab goes to the inside, remember that. And there's our bush. You can see how it's kind of flogged out a little bit here, elongated. All right, I'll clean all of this up and we'll get the other bush installed. Okay, I've cleaned up my sway bar. I've cleaned up my clamp. This looks like it only goes on one way. At least there's an arrow that was pointing forward, so I'll make sure I get that arrow pointing forward again, like so. There's the difference between the new and the old bush. You can see that old bush is quite flogged out and elongated. Now that tab went on the inside, which goes that way around. I'm not going to lubricate these. They're going on dry. Make sure we got our arrow oriented forward. Then that slips on like so. I got my 2 bolts lubricated up, and they're just a wee bit too short to start. So that being the case, I got my trolley jack, and I'm just going to jack up on that sway bar until it pushes it closer into those bolt areas. All right, she's in place. Let me start my bolts. There's one. Now I gotta line this bolt hole up. That's it, we got them both started. One side down, one to go. This side's got an arrow as well, just like the other side. And same as on the other side, that little tab faces inboard. Okay, all the parts are cleaned up. New bush on, little tab facing inboard. Pop that clamshell in place, and let's jack up the sway bar. That should give us enough. Done with maximum ugga-duggas. Drop our jack down, and okay, those were the easy bushes. Now onto the hard ones. Now I've had this side off once before, and my recollection was that it was a real bitch. It's easy enough to get off. You just got a bolt here on the top and a bolt here on the bottom. But this KDSS arm will then swing down. And when it comes time to reassembling this, trying to get this all lined up was a real bear. I think I used the jack underneath here to push the arm back up, and I'm pretty sure I used some ratchet straps to pull the arm a little bit sideways as well. But I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. First things first though, I'll pull these bolts off and we'll get that little arm out of there. Now you might be thinking, geez, I wouldn't be working on that car with just that flimsy little jack stand there. However, the car is supported by the hoist as well, so if that jack stand were to fail for any reason, the car wouldn't move because it's sitting on the hoist. Now you can see how that arm is moved and that bolt hole is not lined up now. So putting that back in, that's going to be a cow. Can't get the rattle gun in there, so I've got to use a breaker bar to get this side off. Now I've got the top bolt and the bottom bolt off. I'm going to jack this arm up to relieve the tension off of this tiny arm to be able to get it out of there. Okay, I got the tension off that arm. Let's get this bolt out of here. There's our bush. There's our bolt. And we'll drop our KDSS arm back down. And I'll play around and lever this sucker out of here. There we go. Just had to bend that out a little bit. It's probably been nailed by gibbers and stuff and bent around. And there we go. There's the bottom. And you can see that bush is flogged out as well. There she is. Now, I'm not actually taking any material off there. I'm just sort of polishing that inside so the new bush will slide in nice and easily. Excellent, done. He's got him. Beautiful. All right, I'll start with the easy one first. Now, unfortunately, that top bush has a bit of a chunk taken out of it right here. I don't have a replacement for that. And I need the car because we're heading out to the Simo very shortly, so I'm just going to have to put this back in place and replace that bush when we do get back. Just allow me to interrupt this video for a second. I've got to do a quick shout out to a subscriber, at least I think he's a subscriber, named Frank. I won't say your surname just to protect your anonymity. However, Frank was very kind and sent me through a bit of Ryobi merchandise. So we've got a couple of Ryobi bags, I've got a couple of Ryobi mugs, one which I'm using at the moment, some eye protection, so he must watch a few of my videos and see that I don't actually wear these. A couple of Ryobi ball caps, and one big Ryobi sun cap. Thank you very much, Frank. That's a very generous random act of kindness. I trust the universe will look after you, mate. Cheers. If you're doing this job, make sure you get this little guy oriented the right way. It's it's got a bit of a slope to it that slopes forward. If you get it around the other way, it'll actually foul the bottom of this lower control arm. All right, now that that bolt's hand tight in there, I'll jack up the KDSS arm and try and line these two up. Now you can see what I mean by this being a little bit of a bugger to line up. These bushes have actually got a bit of stress on them when they're in place. And you can see how far those two holes are away at the moment. Now if I jack the KDSS arm up a little bit, that's the right level or the right height. But this little guy in the back has to come back and twist around. So I am going to fight with this for a little while and see how I go. My recollection was the last time I actually had to put a ratchet strap around this arm and pull it in that direction towards the center of the car. But I'll see whether I can fight with it and get it to start without doing that. Well, after a fair bit of jiggling and jostling around, I finally got it. You just got to be patient. You're just fighting bushes and different angles. But you can get it if you just keep at it. It's got it. Okay, that bush is replaced. That one isn't, and it needs to be. I thought that I bought one top and one bottom. I didn't. I obviously bought two bottoms. The bottom on the other side, which is the same as this one, is in really good nick. So I'm actually not going to replace the bottom one on the other side. I'll keep that as a spare for the time being. Now here's what I've discovered after I've finished this job. There's the stabilizer on the right hand side. If you look at that bush number there, 48849A, we jump over here, and that's got two part numbers, which are the two part numbers I have. And the difference between the two is one is a sub-tank vehicle, one's a non-sub-tank vehicle. But those two parts are identical. So that means you can buy this entire stabilizer arm, and you can buy that bush, but you can't buy that entire unit assembled from Toyota as a full unit. So what does that actually mean? Well, if you're going to go genuine, you'll need to buy that bush separate, and you'll need to buy that arm separate, and you'll need to assemble it when you get home. Alternatively, you can buy that complete unit assembled off of places like eBay in the aftermarket sector. So that's our right-hand side. Now on our left-hand side, you can buy this assembly here, 48810. Clink on that. And there you go. You got, again, two part numbers, one with the sub-tank, one without. I suspect they're identical. But what I'm unsure about is whether that actually comes with the bushes or not. I know the bush from the right-hand side fits this lower arm. They're identical. What I don't have is the bush for this upper part. When I went to the dealer, they couldn't help me either. So I'm not exactly sure what to do. Maybe you guys could help guide me. Do I go out and try and purchase that arm and hope that it comes with those two bushes? Because if it doesn't, I don't know where I'm going to get that new upper bush. I searched that part number in the aftermarket space and came up with a dead end. It spat out all of these other bushes and all of these other stabilizer bars, which were for the right-hand side. Nothing for the left-hand side. So unfortunately, that one's a bit of a dead end for me. I'm not sure what to do with that upper bush. So now I'll jack this thing up and put the wheel back on. Now what did Jacob do? Who knows? And of course, when you finish this job, don't forget to close off these two KDSS shutter valves. I don't know what happens if you leave them open, but they're closed for a reason, so you better shut the gate. Well, I got 3 out of 4 of these sway bar bushes replaced. 75%, not too bad. Anyway, the Cruiser is now ready to take on the Simpson Desert in a few weeks' time. Thanks for dropping by, everybody. Look after one another and keep the shiny side up. Bye now.